would you like the Central Coast community to understand about what we're trying to create here?
But we are all kind and we expect them to be kind.
Mingara Medical started as one computer on a single desk.
That's not my husband.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm the business manager here at Mingara Medical. I'm here with Quinten, Willemse and JP Mare, who are both owners of Mingara Medical, along with Ben Eckstein and Chris Lloyd. So I'm here today to have a chat about where we started and things that have happened along the way. So Quinten, 2013, you employed me as an office manager in a new medical practice in Tumbi Umbi. I don't think I had a clue what I was in for, but you had a vision, I guess. So do you want to tell us about that?
I don't think anybody had a clue back then, Kate. I certainly had no clue what I was doing. We started the practice because we just wanted to do things a little bit better. I was frustrated with what I saw around me and other places I worked at. I saw an opportunity and I wanted to try and just build a good medical practice. And I think in a way this has become much bigger than what I ever envisioned.
We had a lineup of Mingara patients on that first day. I do remember that. But you didn't start that. You'd started before that, hadn't you?
We did. We had to basically ensure that the practice was viable before we actually started in a bricks and mortar building. And Mingara residents were crucial as part of that plan. So started about a few months. I think the practice opened in July. I think we started around March. Of all places, we started in the hairdresser in the retirement village. And Mingara Medical, most people would not know this, but Mingara Medical started as one computer on a single desk. And I started seeing patients in the retirement village. And that's really where it all started coming together.
So JP, did you go to the retirement village and go, yes, I have to come to Australia, or how did that happen?
Well, I think Quinten emailed me from that the room you were talking about with the one computer. And I was sitting in Canada at the time, planning a new clinic that I was opening, building my dream home. I had no plans to move anywhere. So Quinten and I, who shared business before in Canada, Quinten emailed me and said, would you consider come and have a little look and maybe come join me? And I was like, definitely not. But okay, the mean temperature of the town I lived in was 2.6 degrees Celsius. It was snowing for 7 months of the year. And after 15 years in the snow, I thought, just 5 days, I'll fly over, go say hi to Quinten. I'm not going to come, and the first morning of the first day that I woke up in Australia, I went for a little ocean swim. And
whereabouts was that?
That sold me. That was at Terrigal. I remember Quinten actually said, I'll arrange accommodation for you. And of course, he's going to arrange the nicest place in Terrigal overlooking the ocean. And I haven't even seen him on that day. It was in June, in the winter. I arrived by plane, drove up here, stayed the night. The next morning, took my little wetsuit and walked down to, because I heard you could swim here in the winter, and put my wetsuit on, went for a little swim from the haven to the Terrigal Surf Club. And I remember, didn't speak to him about the plan, didn't know nothing about what's going on here, haven't seen any places yet. And during that swim, I crossed the stingray, a big stingray, is 2 by 2 meters. And as I crossed it, I just said to myself, if you can do this in winter, I'm joining this stingray, and I'm moving to Australia. As simple as that. Got out of the water, phoned the family and said, we're moving to Australia. I'm going to meet Quinten later. And yeah, long before I knew anything about Mingara, I just said, I'm coming.
So we've obviously come a long way since then. We've built a purpose-built building. Were there scary moments along the way? Like, were there times where you went, oh my goodness, are we doing the right thing?
For me, there were many scary moments. Just making the decision to go ahead was very scary, coming from a pure medical background. Never really done, I've been involved in partnerships before with JP and other people, but never really done business in medicine. So to actually commit to setting up a practice and taking the responsibility for other people to come, that was hugely scary. And then also scary, just, trying to get it all set up, opening doors. We started on the 1st of July 2013, and the pressure to actually start on that day was just absolutely huge. We literally were laying floors the night before still. So, and then, there's some scary moments since, moving from a smaller practice to this bigger building was a concern at the time. But we've weathered them all, and I think we've grown for it, and we've done well. So,
yeah, for me, I would say backing up a practice that I was actually building, a home that I was planning for 10 years to build, and I was 80% through the construction, and deciding to make a U-turn to put everything on the line that I've kind of worked for a long time was extremely scary, security-wise. I think the first 2 years was difficult. There were no patients. We had to watch the paint dry, hope that we'll have more than 10 patients in the morning. And we knew, take a leap of faith in yourself and it'll happen. So I had no doubt business-wise that we'll make it work, but I knew it was going to take our full conviction, and the challenges, sure enough, came along the way. But I think, I think the second most scariest part for us was when we went from small practice to big practice across the road, and the question was, do you build and they will come, or do you wait for them to come and then you build? We decided to build and hope that the Central Coast will arrive at our front door. And it didn't happen for 2 years, which was quite stressful.
Very stressful. I do remember that time very well. And so now that we're here and we're in our bigger building and we have a lot of people working with us, what do you think you want patients to feel when they walk in the door?
So for me, what I want them to feel is that we are not a big corporate practice. They need to feel the kindness when they walk into our front door is what I want them to feel. That they are welcome, that they are treated as if they are in a smaller practice. That's literally the only thing I want. They need to feel welcome.
I agree. And from my perspective, I want them to feel that we've got them. I want them to come in and feel safe. And I sense that when I walk in and I see the friendly faces at reception, and I see the friendly nurses, it just feels calm and welcoming. And I think our patients feel that as well.
And if somebody was to join our team, what would you like them to know before they signed up for the long haul?
Well, I'd like them to know that we all exercise around here.
Some more than others.
Yeah, well,
I think it's simple. I think our main kind of outlook and word we use for representing our outlook on life is kindness in our practice. And if they're kind, we allow a lot of leeway, a lot of lifestyle. Not everyone works the same amount of hours, but we are all kind and we expect them to be kind. And if I keep it simple in a nutshell, that's what I would want them to know. That's what we do here. And if they fit in with our culture that we've established, they'll be very happy.
I agree. And I think it's a place of possibilities. I think you can come here and just work and go home, and that's acceptable for some. And if that's okay, then so be it. But for people who want to strive and do better, there's opportunities. So, and that goes for nursing, for doctors, for admin. I think it becomes what you make of it.
Have you got any funny moments that you think that you'd like to tell me about?
I can tell you a funny moment that happened to me that I'll change the names to make things legit around here, but this was related to COVID. During COVID, at some point, I was probably the only person here because of the skin cancer surgery I do. And then there were a few people that were seen by other doctors, but no one waited in the waiting room. People were mostly in their cars waiting for a phone call to come into the building when they were about to be seen. On that day, I was doing a procedure on a lady's ear, complicated, quite a long procedure, skin graft on her ear, and I'll call her Betty. And so halfway through this procedure, Betty started becoming a bit sweaty and diaphoretic. And
Sweaty Betty.
Sweaty Betty. Anyway, And I said to Betty, Betty, I'll grab some water for you. Where's your husband? And she said, he's outside. And I asked the nurse at the time to please go and check on, give the patient some water. And I remember I ran to the waiting room and there was one guy sitting, obviously her husband. And I said, sir, are you Betty's husband? And he said, yes. And I said, just come with me, please come and hold her leg. So he walked to the surgical room. She was covered with surgical field to keep the wound stable. So he was holding her leg right at the bottom of the bed. And I was calming her down saying, Betty, your husband is here, everything is good. And after about 2 minutes, she lifted the surgical field up. She said, that's not my husband. And so I said, sir, what are you doing here? He said, I don't know, I'm waiting for Dr. Eckstein. And I escorted the patient back into the waiting room. So it turned out that her husband was in a vehicle outside and his wife is Betty too. And he was holding Betty's leg and Betty thankfully understood what was happening. Well, that was
It all worked out in the end.
It all worked out. I really found that one in a million funny moments for me, COVID related at least.
Do you have anything that's
Nothing that compares. I once had a patient, a young guy who came in for a work cover issue, and still back in the day where we did, most things on paper, and I had to do something for him on paper. For whatever reason, I said to him, look, just go back into the waiting room, just wait a few minutes and I'll get this out to you. And then I got distracted and I kept on going with my afternoon. And eventually was done and went home. And about 5:30, I got a call from one of the receptionists saying, "Look, we're closing soon, and we still have this guy sitting in the waiting room waiting for you." It's about 4 hours later. The funny part is he still comes in and he's still a patient of mine. So.
Unbelievable. The compliance.
Yes.
So Quinten, COVID was quite a stressful time for a lot of people working in general practice. I think our 700 to 800 phone calls a day through reception were triple what we've ever had before. But you became a bit of a voice of the coast, the community during that time.
Not by any intent. COVID was stressful I think we forget, but it was hugely stressful for all of us because we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know that we're going to be sitting here today having a conversation about something that's now almost in the past. So at the time I was living in Terrigal, and what I saw on the news didn't reflect what I saw on the streets. There was a very big discrepancy between what we were told to do and what people were actually doing. So I sat down one day and I briefly ran the numbers on, the exponential growth of COVID, and if this was to hit the Central Coast, what would happen? And that was frightful, because the numbers showed that, within days to weeks, there could have been hundreds to thousands of people infected with COVID. So I ran the numbers past a few people at work, and everybody seemed to agree. And then I did a social media post on that just to try and get the word out there. I also found there was really no local knowledge about COVID. There was nothing really in the early days. And anyway, I think for a post to go viral, it has to have 1 million viewers, but that one got close, which was never my intent. But then I started a Facebook page just to create some source of information for the Central Coast, and that also became quite popular. Fortunately and unfortunately, it became very busy, but I think we served the purpose. There were a few people who came and offered assistance, and for a few months there we provided a lot of information for the coast, and I think it was helpful in a way.
So Quinten, what would you like the Central Coast community to understand about what we're trying to create here?
I think historically general practice has been a place where people go when they're sick. And what we tried from day one is to create a place where people can come and promote their health and well-being, not just when they're sick, but also to just try and improve through lifestyle and through intervention. So I think we're trying to create something beyond just a practice. Call it a movement if you want. I like to look back at what we've done here one day and feel like we've made a real impact in people's lives.
I think that's our tagline, is inspiring better health. So I think that ties in quite nicely to what you've said.
I might add to that. Philosophically, I feel in a country as good as this with a national health system, one of the things I would like to provide to the community we live in is a service that makes life much easier for them. For example, if you need an iron transfusion, if you need a complicated flap surgery on your scalp, you do not need to go to hospital. In most cases, we can do that here for much cheaper, much easier, keep people away from pressuring the health system. If you have one patient visiting emergency room, it will cost the taxpayer about $500. If you have a patient coming to our office, it'll cost the taxpayer maybe $40 to $60. And so I really also would like for us to serve as a center where we can have serve as a referral-based center for other clinics to do complicated surgeries and just make a big difference that way to the community.
Thank you both for your time.
Thank you.